Matt Boldy's 100th career goal got the Wild a point against the New Jersey Devils, a game that was better than the previous loss against New Jersey, but featured some of the same themes. Shots in close, the Wild just cannot get to go at this point in the season. But all in all, a point is a point, and it was a much-needed point for the Minnesota Wild against the Devils here tonight. We'll recap this one for you. Another solid performance from Filip Gustavsson, and we'll see where things are at right now with the Wild and the wild card chase. Let's postcast it.
You are Locked On Wild Postcast, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
3-2 shootout loss for the Minnesota Wild here tonight. A game that looked like it was going to be done in overtime, if not for an offsides puck, and it was offsides. Like, I'm really glad that they did. I know I've railed against it in the past, but I'm really glad they did the frame by frame, because that was a clear offsides. The Wild, unfortunately, unable to score in the shootout, and they lose 3-2, but they do get a much-needed point in the wild card standings here tonight. Welcome into our postcast here this evening. Glad to have you along for the ride. And it was a game that featured many of the same themes that we have seen recently for this Minnesota Wild team on this stretch, in which goals have been hard to come by. There have been a lot of opportunities in close that the Wild just cannot connect on. That continues to be a little bit of an issue. But tonight, unlike these other games, tonight the Wild were able to get the game-tying goal from Matt Boldy late. They were able to get somebody to rise to the occasion and get the goal that they needed to send the game into overtime. And it was a great play by Matt Boldy, too, out in front of the net. Turnover forced by Marcus Foligno. And Boldy does a good job of pulling Markstrom out of the net, because and this probably is just a good indication of where my mental headspace is at with this team right now. My initial reaction was, oh boy, Markstrom's going to find a way to get a piece of this shot. But Boldy with a great move to pull Markstrom out of the net and wait until he was legitimately like out and sprawled out. And then he backhands one in for his 100th career goal, and a much needed goal for the Minnesota Wild. And we talk about it a lot, the lack of urgency, the finishing that just continues to be an issue for this team. Sometimes you just got to battle through, and you got to just grind through it and overcome all the things. And the Wild did that here tonight to pick up a point. Now, the Calgary Flames are currently losing 2-0 to the Colorado Avalanche. So it looks like, once again, the schedule is going to do the Wild a little bit of a favor. That will push the Calgary Flames now 8 points back of the Minnesota Wild. Vancouver is idle tonight, so the Wild are able to pick up 1 point on them. So they're now 7 ahead and 1 point ahead of St. Louis, with games all even. So no more games in hand, at least at this point. The Wild get 1 point, but if you look at it, if you could find a way on some of these opportunities in close, and tonight there wasn't a ton of room to operate. Just 2 high danger shot attempts by the Minnesota Wild in this game. Devils are a sneaky good defensive team that did a good job of limiting what the Wild had to operate with down in close. But if the Wild can just get some of these opportunities in close to go, you get yourself a little breathing room. But that's just how life has been for the last 4 or 5 weeks. It is just these opportunities just are not being closed on, which is why all of these games feel like they are, fight to the end. Really tense, really tight games that that just cannot, you can't get the separators in these games. So everyone is like a fight all the way down to the end. And another instance tonight where the Wild fell behind early. That is something too that you're not always going to be able to dig yourself out of. And we talked about it at the beginning of the season, how good the Wild did with Kirill Kaprizov at grabbing the early lead. Their record when they lead after 2 periods is still very, very good. But we're seeing more and more they go into the 3rd period trailing as opposed to having the lead. And it's hard for this team right now to dig themselves out unless you get players that can step up and can get you one, like Matt Boldy did tonight. It has not been a consistent enough occurrence for this Minnesota Wild team, which is why they're at where they're at. We'll talk more about Kirill and Ek as we get rolling here in tonight's postcast. But let's just start by taking a look at the numbers for this one here tonight. All told, the Minnesota Wild finished with 29 shots on goal to 28 for the Devils, but I'm going to break that down in full detail like we always do. The Minnesota Wild had an expected goals tonight of 2.51. Considering where they have been at for the last few games, that's actually one of their higher figures over the last week or two. They have not had consistent success in generating really quality offensive looks. They had 51 unblocked shot attempts tonight. 40 of those were low danger. 9 were medium danger. And 2 were high danger shot attempts. The Wild got a couple of medium danger goals here tonight. Vinnie Hinostroza with a nice deflection out in front. And then Matt Boldy between the face-off circles with that backhander to tie the score up at 2 apiece. Jacob Markstrom was pretty darn good in net here tonight, but credit to the Devils defense as well for preventing the Wild from really getting anything in close as far as shot attempts go. Just the 2 and 9 medium danger is close to what you're looking for on a nightly basis, but could have used a few more high danger attempts in this one tonight. On the Devils side of things, the New Jersey Devils generated a 2.06 expected goals. So some good work defensively by the Minnesota Wild. But I will also say, and I think this speaks to the just added pressure that gets put on the defense in the goaltending. It seems like opponents are getting some opportunities where they can just walk in right through the middle of the ice, right between the face-off circles. They walk in and they get some point blank looks. And on one of the goals that Gustavsson gave up tonight, it was a juicy rebound on a rush up the side that he wasn't able to corral the initial puck, and the Wild weren't able to get to the rebound attempt before the Devils did, and they were able to bury one in. It is, for the last several weeks, it has felt like all of those bounces have gone against the Minnesota Wild here lately, which is coupled with the scoring struggles. It's a lot of stuff to try to overcome. Now, that being said, you still have to find ways to get it done. And I don't know that I'm a huge fan of some of the shootout approaches. Like Zuccarello's especially, and he's been doing it for a long time. Just walks right up to the net, and Jacob Markstrom has been around enough that you're gonna have to get him to move. Like you got to get him to move off his spot in a shootout attempt, and he was not able to. Matt Boldy hit the post. Again, that's that could be a little bit of a puck luck thing, but my general rule of thumb on shootouts is you've got to get the goalie to move. You've got to pull the goalie off his spot. Otherwise, you're kind of helping them out. If you just let them get set up right between the posts, get comfortable in that area, and you try to beat them in one of those spots, you're giving them a little bit of a read as to what you're doing. So that's just my thought on the whole shootout thing. Power play wise, not a great night for the Minnesota Wild power play, which continues to, it seems, be more and more perimeter centric as we get further and further into the season. They really are struggling to even hold the zone at this point in the year. And Hines has tried, second power play unit getting most of the time. He's tried the 5 forward power play unit. He's tried a lot of different things. None of them have really worked, which I think shows you even further just the level of reliance that the Minnesota Wild have in those critical skill areas. The reliance that they have of Kirill Kaprizov kind of being the one to push all the buttons. So 0 for 2 on the power play. Penalty kill did a nice job. Although that second penalty, that is right in danger zone time, and good for the Wild for killing that off. But we saw this happen in the previous game against the Devils, where the Wild were trailing by 1 goal. They get called for a penalty, and the Devils score almost immediately after that to put the game out of reach, put it to a 2-goal lead instead of a 1-goal lead. So you're asking for trouble in that spot if you're going to try to kill off that type of a penalty. But they did this time. Wild held the edge in faceoffs, hits, and blocks throughout the rest of the game as well. So again, the story is just continued struggles to consistently generate in those spots. And this I like this point here, because I was under the impression as well that Brazo was brought in to help out in that aspect. But the thing with him is he can't really move. He can't really skate. He can't really maneuver when he's out there on the ice. I do think a net front presence is certainly something that they need on that power play. But you're also kind of trying Vinnie Hinostroza in that spot. I don't really know. At this point, I think really the only thing that's going to bring, and it wasn't even that great with Kirill Kaprizov in that spot either. So I don't know if it is the players themselves. I don't know if it's the players themselves. It certainly seems like it. I mean, it has to be at this point, right? You've had multiple coaching staffs. You've had multiple different schemes. And this is both power play and penalty kill. Like the power play, they're either hot, they're either red hot, and they get a stretch where they maybe have power play goals in 8 out of 10 games, and then they don't get one for like 20 plus games. It's just there's no consistency. And on the penalty kill, up until recently, there just was really no confidence or anything to build off of on that unit. So I like it's got to be the players at that point. But who's to say? Who's to say? Because it has it's been an issue for the last few years at minimum. Let's go to a couple of questions here, and then I will break with some commercials, and we'll come back and we'll keep it rolling here. Any chances of Eck getting back during this road trip? We'll be needing him. High is not wrong here. Anytime Joel Eriksson Ek can return, is certainly a welcome sight, because we have seen Marco Rossi kind of go cold. And I don't know if that is because he is just under infinite levels of pressure to take that number one spot and to fill the Ek role. He's been a little on the icy side here over the last month plus. So getting Ek back to take not even necessarily the offensive responsibilities, but even just the defensive responsibilities would be great, to take a little pressure off of Rossi and to put him in a just take a little piece off of his plate. Unfortunately, from what I last heard, there is a timeline for Joel Eriksson Ek, but he is not expected back. He is not expected back soon. Of the two, I would say Kirill has the most likely chance to play on this road trip, but I don't think either of them will. And so I talked about this with Alex today. If they don't play on this road trip, you have 5 games left after that. You've got Dallas and San Jose at home, then Calgary and Vancouver on the road, and then Anaheim on April 15th, and that's the regular season. So how many games are you going to give them to get into a groove? Are they going to be close enough are they going to be 75%? Are they going to be 55%? Like there's just still so much gray area with this situation. We have no idea what we're getting. We have no idea where they're at in the process, because we just have continually gotten we don't really know, but we think they're close. So Kirill, I have not seen any updates on it, but Kaprizov was supposed to meet with his surgeon to get a clearer picture as to what's coming next. Obviously, if that meeting goes encouraging, the doctor says, hey, this all looks good. It looks like you're progressing well. We can ramp up. That's one thing. But the other point that I brought up in today's episode, which if you haven't had a chance to watch it yet, please do. The other point that I brought up is like what we saw with Joel Eriksson Ek in the playoffs against Dallas. Like, you can practice plenty to get yourself in position to where you feel comfortable enough to play. And all it takes is one awkward move and you're out. You're done. You played one shift and had one awkward kind of cut on that leg, and that was it. That was the end of the line for Joel Eriksson Ek that season, and it's a similar injury. So that's my concern level for Joel Eriksson Ek is just it's just, is he going to be in that exact situation? We don't know. We'll have to just wait and see what happens there. But it's something that I think I'm concerned about. Because it just feels like it's the Dallas situation all over again. But this team is in a position where, they don't really have a choice, because as currently constructed, without those two, this roster is they will give you what they have, and on a perfect day, they can keep things close. But we just have seen so many situations where if they're off even by a little bit, you can just see the game kind of slip away as it moves throughout the second period. Let's go to KJ. Why do we always got to go into the playoffs high-strung and anxiety? Why can't we ever smooth sail in? Well, a lot of it has to do with where you're at in your season. Are you peaking at the right time, or are you peaking early? The Wild have been notoriously a team that peaks early and struggles down the stretch. March, the March numbers over the last few seasons are not terrible, but it feels like this team in February and in March, they just kind of get stuck. If you were playing your best hockey going in, then you feel pretty confident. But there always seems to be some sort of an injury. Like a couple of years ago, Mats Zuccarello took a shot off the leg, and that knocked him out the 2021-2022 season, where it was just the world beaters offense. And he came back, and he was not the same. I think the style of play that this team plays, and in like everything you've got, every shift, because of the skill deficiency, it's like the injuries will rob you every time, every season. If you have critical injuries late in the year, that's a death sentence. So I think that has a lot more to do with it than the way that the team is playing. But there have been more than a couple of occasions where you look and you're like, okay, well, let's see how this plays out. Would you guys want to bring Fiala back in the offseason? Not sure about his contract, but he also is up and down like Boldy, but might be cheaper than Mitch Marner. I can pretty confidently say that Kevin Fiala will not be back. Bill Guerin was not a huge fan of his because of this, ironically, because of the streakiness. It's the same. It's pretty much the same thing with Boldy as it was with Fiala. So, and Fiala is under contract through 2027, 2028 at $7.875 million. I think Los Angeles is perfectly content with him. So I don't see him going anywhere. Although his numbers, he's got 50 points. So his point production is way down. His goals are pretty much exactly where they have been, but his point production is way down this year, which is interesting. His assists have been cut almost in half. Interesting. But I don't think we'll see him back. I don't think Hines likes Brazo. That was a Billy move. I tend to agree here. I think most of the trades have been Billy's trades. Gustav Nyquist, who again tonight was quiet. What did he finish up with? He had 3 shots on goal tonight in 15 plus minutes, got 2 minutes each on the power play and the penalty kill. If you haven't had a chance to read Russo's article after that New Jersey game, from the sounds of it, Bill Guerin was pretty set on making the Nyquist move, even with the fact that it was pretty easy to tell that Nyquist had lost a step, that Billy was like, well, bring him in because we know who he is. Again, chasing 2021, 2022, which has been a pretty common theme with this franchise over the last few years. But I think a lot of those moves were Billy moves that that he made, and is just like, just put him in the lineup. And John Hines is like, okay, he can't really skate, turns the puck over quite a bit. Great. Just add him right into the mix. He'll fit right in. Let's go to this from Trav. Any truth to Yurov being one game from KHL playoff elimination? They need to then terminate his contract, though, because it is up in May. This is correct, because I actually had somebody ask me this. I had somebody ask me this on X. If Yurov is eliminated, they're down. I think they're down to their final game, which is tomorrow. What would be the timeline? Would we see Yurov as quickly as Wednesday in the lineup? And I think that's a bit too soon, because here are the things that, not in any particular order, here are the things that would need to happen for Danila Yurov to make his way to the States. Number one, as Trav mentions here, he's got to be released from his KHL contract. The reason that the Murat Huznadinov thing went as quickly as it did was because his KHL team was hideous. They knew he was leaving, and so at that point they were willing to play ball, and they released him from his contract considerably early. So he's got to get released from his KHL contract. He would need a work visa here in the States, and he would need to sign his ELC, and then he would need to get on a plane and get over here. You would imagine he would get in at least a couple of practices before he hopped into the lineup. So that alone, that leads me to believe that even if he was eliminated as soon as tomorrow, that it would probably be about a week or less. Now, some of these guys, some of these players in the States that have done this within like 1 or 2 days, well, that's because they don't have to do all the extra stuff. Like, they're a collegiate player, they can sign their ELC and waive the remainder of their eligibility. If they're, a junior or a sophomore or whatever, they can waive the remainder of that eligibility and sign their ELC. They don't have to get a work visa. They don't have to get on a plane over here to the States. So it's a lot quicker for them to be able to hop in to an NHL lineup. So I would say probably right around a week if Yurov's KHL team is eliminated tomorrow, and that is the route that the Wild would like to go. There also is the problem of the cap, which is another thing that would have to be dealt with. Waivers or what have you. That's another variable that would affect Yurov's ability to come up here. And that's going to be the same thing with Zeev Boyum too, is they're going to have to find a way to get them on the roster through the salary cap. I believe it was a leg injury, KJ. But it's been pretty mysterious on that level as well. Just the whole organization is just very, very secretive with their injuries. So we'll be keeping an eye on how Yurov's team does to see if there's any chance that he makes his way over here. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to continue, so fear not. We'll continue with tonight's postcast after a short commercial break. Again, the Minnesota Wild fall tonight by a score of 3-2 in a shootout. More of our postcast is coming up right after this. Today's postcast is brought to you by FanDuel. We're down to the final four in the NCAA tournament, and FanDuel is giving you a chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who is cutting down the nets. Think of it this way. You have a 1 in 4 chance right now to pick the team that will win the NCAA tournament. And you could, if you get it, you could end up getting $200 in bonus bets to use then for the remainder of the Major League Baseball season, the Stanley Cup playoffs, the NBA playoffs, whatever you choose, $200 in bonus bets to use at your disposal. So, Final Four is coming up this weekend. Flip a coin. Take your pick on both matchups. And if one of those $5 bets wins, you are in the money. $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Tonight's postcast is also brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Are you looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to keep you feeling fuller longer. I have a bag of the honey roasted no shells sitting on my coffee table. So anytime I am feeling a snack, I pop that bag open and you're getting nutritious snacks as well as a taste good snack too. It's a double whammy, a perfect double whammy. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Tonight's Locked On Wild postcast also brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it is easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. I found another one today through Monarch Money. I was paying for a Nintendo Switch account. I haven't used my Nintendo Switch in like 2 years. A lot of video games, a lot to keep track of, but thankfully Monarch Money helps me do just that without having to devote all my time trying to track down all those extra dollars. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. The Minnesota Wild fall in a shootout 3-2. And for the Wild, they get 1 point. And unfortunately, they did not get the other. Latest update is the Colorado Avalanche lead Calgary 2-0 heading into the latter stages of the second period. So if that score holds, then they will be 8 points behind the Minnesota Wild. And the Vancouver Canucks are currently 7. Vancouver coming up tomorrow. Who does Vancouver have on the schedule? Vancouver is off again. When do they play next? So they must play Wednesday. Yep. The Vancouver Canucks play the Seattle Kraken on Wednesday for their next game. So that's a very winnable game for Vancouver. Seattle is not great. So we'll see. Let's get to some more questions and comments here. Zeev will go back to Denver if the Wild don't bring him here after they win the Frozen Four. He certainly could, but if he signs his ELC, he waives the remainder of his eligibility, and I don't know what else he has to prove at the collegiate level. Like if Denver wins again, he's a beast. Like I watched the Denver game. Oh my goodness. I'm laughing at a question that just got put in the chat here. He's good. He's got a nasty edge to him, but he's a fluid skater. He's got a rocket shot. He's the whole package. He could help the Wild immediately if he signs his ELC. I would imagine as soon as the season is either over or Denver gets eliminated, Bill Guerin is going to present that to him in person, or he's going to fly here and sign it here. But that is what's on the table, is that he is going to sign it the moment it is a possibility, and the Wild are going to try to get him acclimated like they did Brock Faber. Britt, boots on the ground. We were at this game. I was literally beating the table in front of me when they got the breakaway and then passed it instead of taking the shot. At that point, I was done. Yeah, that was I forget which Devils player that was. Didn't have the angle for the shot, and I'm like, well, you gotta take the shot. You got to let that thing rip, my guy, and they didn't. It was an interesting game to say the least. Is it July yet? This club is not entertaining at all. We're gonna dive into the money situation quite a lot once we get to the off season, because I know we've been touting that the Wild are just going to have $15 million in cap space to spend the moment the Parise and Suter cap hits are off the books, or they become strictly the buyouts. It's going to be less than that because, well, we don't really know. Marco Rossi, if he is re-signed, that will eat into it. Kirill Kaprizov's extension will eat into it, not this year, but the following year. There are a lot of different ways that the offseason could go, one of which is Billy just continues to hoard his chess pieces. Another is he gets mandated to make big changes. I don't know if I like the sound of either of those, because saying make big changes just for the sake of making changes is not a good way to manage a team, if that makes sense. I would just like to see a practical approach applied to this roster and to try to hit what is clearly the biggest issue for this team right now: skating and skill. You got to find a couple of ways to iron those areas out. Zeev Boyum helps you with both. Danila Yurov would help you with both. Liam Ogren would help you with both. Billy can't keep running from the future. It's going to be here before you know it. So there will be a couple of key areas that I think are just easy upgrades. Marcus Johansson's spot on the roster. There's an upgradable spot. John Merrill, upgradable spot. That's Yurov and Boyum right there. And you've got David Juracek, who's still in the mix. You've got Liam Ogren, who's still in the mix. That's just quick math, because there are other players in that bottom six that are free agents as well. Didn't the Wild put two people on waivers to make cap space? They did. It was Devon Shore and Brendan Gaunce, but those two are making $775K combined, and that is because with Kirill on long-term injured reserve, or however Kirill is on long-term, Eriksson Ek is not, and by having by the additions that the Wild have made and otherwise, they're slightly over. So putting Shore and Gaunce on waivers so that they could then go to Iowa, that would be enough to clear to put Kaprizov back on. That'd be all that's for. They would need to clear additional in order to get Yurov and Boyum on the roster. We're back to the cap gymnastics again. I hate it. How much money will be left for Kaprizov after we get Nyquist and Brazo? Dan, you're lucky I'm in it. I'm kidding. That joke did not. That joke can't hurt me because of what I have already witnessed this season. Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if one or the two, honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if Brasso's back. Like, oh yeah, and the Faber extension is another one that pops in next year. That's 8.5 right there. I've seen enough Brazo leave him in New Jersey. I don't disagree. Skating and skill. Oh, so just the two priciest commodities in the NHL. Yeah, the only thing that every team consistently has except the Boston Bruins and the Minnesota Wild. The trade protections is going to be a very interesting part of this offseason. You can move a handful of these guys, but you have to ask them first. And that's the biggest part of this is I just don't see, unless Craig Leopold demands it, I just don't see him. I don't see him asking at this point, unless Craig Leopold says you have to, like, unless Craig Leopold says your job is on the line. I don't see him asking any of these guys at this point. Gus extension, can Jesper play? Well, Jesper's hurt again. That dude needs just a full, complete reset after what has all happened this season. Did not get off to a good start because of the, hey, remember the 3 goalie rotation? Remember that rhetoric at the beginning of the season? Is we're gonna carry 3 goalies. Yeah, that worked great. Some of that is credit to the play of both Filip Gustavsson and Marc-Andre Fleury. There just really wasn't a consistent spot for Jesper, and so I agreed with the decision to send him down, but he's been injured. The team in front of him continues to be poor down in Iowa. So it really has been kind of a lost season for Jesper. I'm going to see how deep I can dig into the details in the offseason, but my faith in Jesper being the long-term solution has not wavered, but it has taken a hit this year, if that makes sense. Just because it feels like this was a wasted development year. But we'll get more info on that. I do fully agree with Britt here. We have seen Filip Gustavsson get basically every game down the stretch. Marc-Andre Fleury has played like twice in the last 3 weeks, I think. 2 or 3 times is all. He's played 2 times in the month of March, and that was on the 9th and the 25th. So they are riding Filip Gustavsson into the ground. But I want to make this point as well. These goalie numbers and the goals against, that is the huge byproduct of that is the pressure that the goalies are put under with this offense not able to score consistently. Filip Gustavsson for the month of March, all told, he started 12 games in March. Good Lord. 13, I beg your pardon. He started 13 games in the month of March. And his numbers are going to be a goals against average of right around 2. He allowed 26 goals in 13 games. 26 goals in 13 games. And his save percentage is going to end up being right around .930. So the fact that despite all the starts that he continues to put up those numbers, that's why I'm so adamant that he needs to be extended. Like, I think Gus is capable of being a dude. And I just would much rather have certainty while you're developing Jesper at the NHL level. Obviously, it's going to cost you, but I think it's worth it. I missed. Oh, so who gets sent down if they do sign Zeev? Merrill and Chisholm not going on waivers, from what Russo said. Well, thankfully, actually, I wonder if he's back down. They had Cameron Crotty up for emergency purposes. Your goalies are your goalies. Your defensemen are Spurgeon, Brodin, Middleton, Bogosian, Merrill, Chisholm, and Faber. Would they really carry 8? That is a really good question. It's clear that the team likes Declan Chisholm. John Merrill's not going anywhere. Zach Bogosian is one of your bigger players, so he's not going anywhere. Maybe they carry 8. And you put Zeev in for a couple of games to give guys a rest. I don't know. I don't know how they'll do that. The logic says just send Merrill down, just place him on waivers and send him down, but they're clearly not going to do that. So I don't know who it will be. Because even amongst the forwards, like, your options are basically Brendan Gaunce and Devin Shore. You're not going to send Vinnie Hinostroza down. He's not going anywhere. He's been one of your most consistent players since he was claimed. So he's not going anywhere. Yeah, that's a quandary. Ugh, I don't want to have to make that choice. Zeev on power play and run 3rd pairing during 4th line. Only 7 minutes a night anyway. I'm going to be fascinated to see what they do. Also, would not surprise me. Would not surprise me because it's not the logical play if he signs his ELC and just goes to Iowa. I don't want it, but it's on the table because there's just a fascination with that third pairing. They don't generate anything offensively. Nothing offensively. Of all the D pairings that have played requisite amount of minutes together, they were dead last in, let me pull the stat up. They were dead last amongst D pairings in expected goals for per 60 minutes, or actual goals, actually. Goals for per 60 minutes. They've played 532 minutes together. They're dead last. 1.47 goals for per 60 minutes. And yet, here we go. Yeah, Vinny's going to be interesting because he will be here next year. So he was on a 2-year deal, so he will be here next year. I think he's going to be a good fit on that fourth line. Because he actually, like, consistently night in, night out, he outworks a lot of people. And that sounds super basic, and I hate that has become like the bar, but he does it well. And I'll take that at this point. Won't sign his ELC to go to Iowa. I mean, that's certainly a possibility, but I don't know. I can't really. I just can't see Bill Guerin making a tough choice because he assembled this version of the Avengers, the Avengers. Av is an average. Oh God, did I just create a thing? Bill Guerin assembling the Averangers. I can't put anything creative together. Somebody in the chat help me out. But basically what I'm saying is just a collection of super average people. Yakov Trenin, how is the cap if we buy him out? 1.111 million until 2030, 2031. So he's got 3 years after this year, which means that you tack 3 years of buyout on. So you're saving yourself 2.4 roughly million per season. I would just rather see if you can send him to a team like the Anaheim Ducks, because you only have a finite number of those buyout slots, and the Anaheim Ducks or the Chicago Blackhawks are just perpetually under the cap floor, and thus have money on their books to be able to just take, and they're young enough, like, it, like, just sick him on somebody else as opposed to the buyout. Like, I don't want to go down the buyout road. Ladies and gentlemen, Hoptics has made the show. Whoop whoop. 7 and 8 points clear on Vancouver and Calgary. If either wanted to pass us, they would have to get 4 more wins than us in the final 8. We are going to the playoffs and getting our best players back. Who's got it better than us? Who has it better than Minnesota Wild fans right now? And yes, thank you, Brett. 1 point ahead of the St. Louis Blues. We're now dead even in the games department. The St. Louis Blues, do they play tomorrow? They play the Red Wings. Detroit is bunk right now. Well, they were. Calgary has tied it up at 2 in the third. I want to know who did it. Adam Klapka and Ryan Lomberg. Oh, no wonder Scott Wedgwood is in net for the Avs. So if that score doesn't change, then the Flames are going to get at least one. But Blues are taking wild card 1. Pretty much inevitable. Vegas or Winnipeg at this point, pick your poison. Yeah. There was this whole discussion about who would you rather play between the Golden Knights or the Jets, and I'm like, it seemed like everybody was saying, oh, easy, I'd much rather play Vegas. And I'm like, I don't know if I would be I don't know if I would be so quick to just immediately say, yeah, this is the preferred route. Vegas is incredibly tough. You're going to need to have somebody step up in that series. That's all I'm saying. You're going to need to have the goalie play. Like, the goalie play doesn't worry me for the Wilds. The goalie play doesn't worry me because that has been one of the strengths of the season all season. The defense has done a good job for the most part of helping out. Defense, the goaltending don't worry me in a playoff series. The offense and the special teams, that's where I'm concerned. Winnipeg is just like the Stars. Get a ton of power play goals. I'd honestly prefer them if we stay out of the box. Well, easier said than done, but I get what you're saying. Is you play these teams at 5-on-5 and you pretty much take your chances. But we have seen, now we don't know if John Hines is going to have the secret sauce to be able to get this team to play more disciplined in the postseason, because we haven't seen it yet. But the last 2 times the Wild were in the postseason with Dean, parade. Straight to the penalty box every game. So that could be a wild card, is how this team does with discipline. We'll find out. I'm very on board with the Kirill Kaprizov revenge series if we do get the Jets. Logan Stanley, I think, is with the actual Jets team. Let's just take a peek at here he is. Logan Stanley, $1.25 million, 6'7", 231. He has 12 points in 55 games, 78 PIMIs on the season. Kaprizov's availability depends entirely on how today's doctor's appointment went. I haven't seen any update on that, but he was going to get kind of a more updated timeline of his return in that doctor's appearance. I think if it went poorly, we probably would have heard something on it right now. So I'm taking that as a sign of optimism. But I'll keep you in the loop on that. But I'm with High here. I think Kaprizov, if I had to set a date for him to come back, I'm going Sunday for Kaprizov. I think Sunday versus the Stars, I think would be the route that I would go. Because, here's the thing. Here's the thing with bringing him along is that he's able to practice. So you get him into practice this week and you set your sights on, ick. I just saw the first Calgary goal. Scott Wedgwood was doing a face down snow angel. Ugh. Yeah. So by having Kaprizov and Eriksson Ek with, you can get them in practice, get them a full week. If you asked me to set a date, I say Sunday versus the Stars for Kaprizov. As far as Ek goes, I would say probably within the next couple of games after that. He's more of the wild card at this point, but the fact that he's skating is encouraging. I'll say for Ek, I will say Ek returns Wednesday the 9th. So Locked On Wild is going to give you a definitive prediction for both. I'll say April 6th for Kaprizov, and I'll say April 9th for Ek. And we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. But if there's any news about Kirill Kaprizov, we'll have you covered with an episode tomorrow, in addition to our normal episode. So just be on the lookout if there is anything that is revealed from that meeting. But I think that's going to wrap it up here for tonight. The fight was better. The effort was better. The results just unfortunately on the same path, but the Wild did get 1 of 2 here tonight against the New Jersey Devils, and they will be back at it on Wednesday against the Rangers. So we will keep you up to date on all things Minnesota Wild, but appreciate everybody tuning in here tonight for tonight's Locked On Wild postcast. Again, the Wild fall 3-2 in a shootout. Make sure to hit that like button before you head out for the night, and we'll keep it rolling here till the final regular season game as we keep rolling. Appreciate everybody tuning in here tonight. Minnesota Wild get 1. They'll try to get 2 on Wednesday. You can find all of our previous episodes. And again, if you haven't seen today's episode yet, I encourage you to go back and check it out with Alex, just taking a look at goings on as we typically do. But we'll have you covered the rest of the week right here on Locked On Wild.